Throughout the chaotic Doom timeline, the Doomslayer ripped and tore his way through countless demons, angels, and even the Dark Lord himself. Many of these villains were just that, villains, but there were some that had once been good, only to have been manipulated and corrupted by the Dark Lords of Hell. One of these was a researcher at the Argent Facility on Mars, a person who once wanted to help the world, only to have had her passion and pain twisted into something evil. What led Olivia to work at the Argent Facility on Mars? Why did the Dark Lord target her? And what connection did she have to the legendary Spider Mastermind? Here, we explore in the lore and story behind Dr. Olivia Pierce. In her earlier years, Dr. Olivia Pierce was seen as one of the youngest, best and brightest scientific minds. With her reputation, she caught the attention of Dr. Samuel Hayden, the General Director of the Global Science Council. Hayden himself was also somewhat of a prodigy with a mysterious past. In his efforts to better humanity and guide bright minds, he set up the Samuel Hayden Foundation. Olivia Pierce was lucky enough to be sponsored through this foundation, and with this immense amount of support, her talent was nurtured and she became the best version of herself. In doing this, she graduated at the top of her class with first-class honours in biomechanical and genetic engineering from a university in Strasbourg. After this, Hayden also set her up with a position at the Global Science Council to continue her work. Over their time together, Samuel taught Olivia as much as he could and they formed a close working relationship. She became his protege and expanded her work into various fields of study. Alongside her experimentation, Olivia also formed her own research company with several other scientists and a heavy donation from Sam Hayden. Nanostruct Aerospace and Defense Systems was the type of company Samuel Hayden approved of for Olivia, and the company itself not only helped aid Earth, but it also made her extremely rich in the process. The Global Science Council had offered Olivia Pierce access to the brightest minds in the world, and in this network of scientific resources, they helped each other thrive. On one occasion, Olivia even travelled to South America as a missionary on what she described as a spiritual but frivolous pilgrimage. Samuel Hayden had been good to Olivia, but he had his own problems. Earth had begun to struggle with an energy crisis, and he took it upon himself to look for a new power source for Earth. Although the planet had entered a troubling period, it was still an exciting time for humanity. They had expanded their understanding of spaceflight and travelled further into the solar system than they ever had before. The Union Aerospace Corporation had led this charge into this field of research, and they had set their sights on Mars. This planet was perfect for research and to build a colony to sustain life. In 2095, out in the Promethe Terra region of Mars, a UAC commissioned geological survey discovered a new possible energy source for Earth: Argent plasma. In this narrow trench, the UAC dubbed this region the Argent Fracture. What was not explained to the rest of the world was that this fracture led to a different dimension. To understand this energy source, package it and transfer it back to Earth, the UAC reached out to Samuel Hayden to run the program. For the years to come, Sam worked with the UAC as they explored Mars, as Olivia continued on with the Global Science Council without her mentor. Over several expeditions around and into the Argent Fracture, Sam and his team discovered several interesting artifacts that offered an insight into ancient life. to examine the artifacts and work with Argent Plasma, Sam reached out to Olivia and offered her a position with the UAC. Olivia's career had exploded thanks to Sam's funding and guidance, but she was very comfortable with her work, nanostruct, and she had no interest in the energy business. Samuel knew Olivia, and instead, he focused more on the artifacts to entice her, specifically one named the Helix Stone, an ancient tablet with information about the energy source, the dimension within the fracture, and many other mysteries. With the thought of being one of the first to explore this field, and with a new cutting-edge laboratory, Olivia eventually accepted Samuel's offer and relocated to the Argent Facility on Mars. As the head of the Lazarus Project and head of biochemical research at the Argent Facility on Mars, Dr. Olivia Pierce worked directly under Samuel Hayden in their efforts to understand the Argent fracture, the dimension within, and its population. It soon became clear that this was no regular realm, it was the dimension of hell. Over time, excavation teams entered the realm and brought back artifacts and even managed to capture some of the demonic population to research. Alongside this, Olivia studied the Helix Stone to uncover its symbols and mysteries. The stone itself was fascinating, and as Olivia spent more time with it, she, in a way, became connected to it and an obsession grew. Pierce's research into hell offered invaluable information for humanity. However, just months after her arrival in the Argent Facility, her constant close proximity and exposure to the hellish artifacts resulted in a diagnosis of idiopathic scoliosis. In most cases, this would have been a setback, but for Olivia, she continued to work from her wheelchair as she studied hell, experimented on the captured creatures, and decoded the Helix Stone for Samuel. In her limited downtime, she was an avid reader, and it appeared she was a fan of a game called Demon Destruction, in which she claimed the second highest score. Her diet also consisted of pizza and sodas. To combat her disability, Olivia was offered the opportunity to participate in an experimental augmentation surgical procedure. In essence, the procedure had a titanium exoskeleton grafted onto her body. The surgery was a success and she retained her mobility. This also came with excruciating pain. Pierce was offered medication to ease her suffering, but she refused it. She feared that any medication would reduce her ability to work. By 2127, Olivia's work on the Helix Stone had allowed Samuel and the rest of the Union Aerospace Corporation to construct the Argent Tower, a device that siphoned the Argent energy from hell, held it, and sent it back to Earth to solve their energy crisis. This was a huge win for Olivia, but Sam soon noticed that something was off with her. Olivia's obsession with the Helix Stone and hell had increased. She missed UAC press events, avoided board meetings, cut off her friends, and just stayed within her lab. Despite this issue, Samuel allowed her to continue with her work as her discoveries had allowed the UAC to thrive and its elite guards to receive incredible upgrades powered by hell science. These guards also required kill chips just in case they used their increased speed and strength against those they had been hired to protect. In her obsessive, weakened state, a Dark Lord of Hell reached out to Olivia. She was offered a cure for her terminal illness and great power. In return, the Dark Lords wanted access to the Mars facility and, in general, the earthly realm. Dr. Olivia Pierce had once wanted to better mankind and help her planet, but her exposure to hell and its artifacts had corrupted her sense of morality, and in this state, she accepted the deal. Across the Mars facility, Olivia formed a cult that worshipped Hell. She reached out to those she believed would be susceptible to her manipulation. To allow Hell to access Mars, she had to open a portal, and to do this, she needed help. Olivia offered her followers a place in the New World, and as their leader, she could give them a good life. These were lies, yet she said what she had to get her way. In her lab, Olivia continued her experimentation on the creatures of Hell, only this time, she augmented them with weaponry that only made them stronger. These creatures had to successfully invade the facility for this bargain, and here, abhorrent creatures were formed and created for this purpose. The Mancubus were installed with cannons and flamethrowers, and UAC military personnel were mutated into creatures dubbed Revenants through the installation of cybernetics and repeated exposure to Lazarus waves. Olivia Pierce's work had become cruel with only one goal: to benefit herself. As her experiments continued, Olivia was once again contacted by a Lord of Hell. He explained that although Hell was strong, there was one entity that could stop this plan. He was a human turned godlike being that had fought in Hell for thousands of years. He was the only thing that the demons feared, and Samuel Hayden and his expeditions into Hell were close to discovering him. The Doomslayer had been trapped within a sarcophagus within Kadinga Sanctum. Unfortunately for Olivia, Sam Hayden did discover the Slayer, in which she was berated by the Dark Lords. Upon his return to Mars, Samuel decided to hide the sarcophagus of the Slayer. He knew that something bad was about to happen and that Olivia had fallen to the corruption and manipulation of the Dark Lords. Only the Slayer, a being he had a long history with, would be able to stop what was to come. In 2149, Dr. Olivia Pierce believed that it was finally time to fulfill her promise to the Dark Lords of Hell. She had sacrificed many humans for her goal, and to begin this invasion of the Argent Facility, Olivia released a hell wave from Lazarus Labs. Alongside this, she also activated the kill chips within the elite guards. These would have been the first line of protection, and without them, the population of the facility were helpless. As the Hellwave flowed through the facility, the many scientists, lower-level security, and visitors were mutated and transformed into demonic entities. Her cult also transformed, and for those who did not fall to this wave, they were annihilated by the waves of demons. In this chaos, Olivia made her way to the Argent Tower in the hopes to tear open the connection between Hell and Mars that the tower sustained. However, to her frustration, her attempts were stopped by the Doomslayer. Samuel Hayden's backup plan was a force to be reckoned with, but so was she. Instead, she grabbed an Argent accumulator and took it to the top of the Argent Tower. With this, Olivia allowed herself and the accumulator to enter the beam of the energy of the tower. This action pulled her into Hell and also ripped open the portal she had hoped to engulf the Argent Facility. Within Hell, in a region that had once belonged to the planet of Argent Deneur, Olivia waited. She had completed her task, and it was her time to be rewarded. She had betrayed her species in return for power, but she soon learned that deals with demonic entities were not what they at first appeared to be. Just like Olivia had manipulated her followers, the Dark Lords had manipulated her. In the Well, the place of power that the Argent Tower had siphoned its energy from, Olivia began to understand what had happened to her. They had promised her so much, and she broke down. This situation only got worse when she turned around and watched as the Doomslayer approached her. This was a being of power, and he saw Olivia as bad as the demons he had ripped and torn his way through to get to her. In a cruel twist of fate, the Dark Lord shot down a bolt of lightning and transformed her into something new to take down their ancient enemy. Olivia felt the excruciating pain as her soul was merged with an ancient demon that the Doomslayer had faced once before, the Spider Mastermind. If she won this battle, she would live on forever within the Spider Mastermind, but her hopes were shattered quickly as the Doomslayer made easy work of her new demonic form. In Dr. Olivia Pierce's final moments as this monstrosity, her demonic body fought hard, but even this could not survive one final blast in the mouth from the Doomslayer's BFG. Just like many other of the villains in the Doom universe, Dr. Olivia Pierce began her life with good intentions, only to fall to the manipulation and corruption of outside forces. Olivia was a victim of circumstance. She had attempted to save her planet, but because she had accepted a job role with her mentor, became injured during her work, and fell into a fairly unhealthy obsession with an artifact from hell, she became the perfect target for manipulation. In the end, in a way, Olivia did fulfill her promise to the Dark Lords, and they too offered her a chance of power as the Spider Mastermind. Yet, she appeared to receive the raw end of this deal. Olivia Pierce will be remembered as another person in this universe that turned against her species for power. Within Hell, she was also memorialized in a sense after a statue was erected in her honor. Olivia will be remembered as a villain. However, she too, like many others, were also a victim of manipulation. I honestly felt bad for Olivia. She was tricked and used to further the goals of the Dark Lords. Of course, demons cannot be trusted. Having covered Dr. Malcolm Betruger fairly recently, it is clear that these characters are almost copies of each other. They were both scientists at their respective UAC facility, they were promised great things from the Dark Lords, they turned on their own species, and eventually they transformed into demonic entities. This is why I believe Doom 3 was set in a parallel universe. Olivia became the iconic Spider Mastermind, and Betruger became the Maledict. Personally, I prefer Betruger, but Olivia was still very interesting to cover. This was everything I wanted to say really, so this was the lore and story behind Dr. Olivia Pierce in Doom. If you enjoyed this, then give it a like, and if you really enjoyed this, then consider subscribing for more content like this. If you dislike this, then give it a dislike. I appreciate you watching anyway. As always, thank you to my amazing gold tier patrons and channel members who got access to this video a little early. Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, Chicken Guy 791, Ruben Mendoza, Duke, Toadnut, Orin X, Azu, Caratana, AJ, Verona, Comfy, BG Games, Apravis, Arnis, and Blaze of Glory. Who had it worse, Olivia Pierce or Malcolm Betruger? What did you think of the Spider Mastermind fight? And what would you like to see next time? This is where our story ends. Check back next week for a new one.